one of the more newer lounges, the one that was sort of brought forth before the ban. It's got sort of the best air quality because it was opened the most recent. I mean, we're talking 16 years ago, but it was still the most recent. You can immediately tell the difference going into a lounge there, how you come out smelling, what your sinuses are like. It's completely different. I went to, David, you were there. We went to All Staff in Orlando. When we were there, obviously I stopped at a cigar lounge in Orlando. The air purification, it's leaps and bounds better because they have to stay competitive because it's a free market there, right? If you've got a cigar lounge that opens and they invest heavily in their clean air, folks are going to want to go there because your clothes don't reek when you get out. You can go to a cigar lounge, have a quick smoke for 45 minutes or an hour, and then go back to work and not worry about, smelling your entire office up. The lounges here in Wisconsin, they don't have to do that.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Hey everyone, welcome to the American Potential Podcast. I'm your host, David Fromm. So, Engineer Matt, we're going to be talking to some gentlemen who are thinking about opening a cigar lounge. And I kind of want to ask you, do you love cigars? Do you like cigars? Not like cigars?
I've never been a huge cigar guy. I've smoked them a few times, though I do have a fun cigar story, sort of, which is during for my 21st birthday, and I'm out in Colorado, and we have this place called the Broadmoor, which, if you know, like Colorado Springs, it's fancy, it's kind of real upscale, and so on my 21st birthday, my friends and I decided that we would sneak into the Broadmoor Hotel and pretend to be guests. And the whole thing hinged on, well, if we have cigars and we go into the cigar lounge, they'll think we belong there. And believe it or not, we got in, we dressed nice, and we smoked these cigars at the Broadmoor, and nobody bugged us. Not one person. It worked amazingly. So I don't know if the statute of limitations is up or if that was even illegal on its face, but we were definitely not supposed to be there. So that was the last time I smoked a cigar.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. And the Broadmoor is a beautiful place.
It is.
I have one memorable story with cigars. I've smoked cigars off and on with some consistency, usually with people. It's not something I just go out and do, but I'll always join somebody, and I do think it's a great way to just kind of sit around and have great conversation with people. My father-in-law, since passed away, but just as a wonderful man, but he really loved cigars. Like way back in the day, even he was getting Cubans somehow and all that. And he'd sometimes invite me over, and he knew all these really interesting people. And he had a guy in from Afghanistan, and we were out on his back porch, and he was like, "Hey, well, you want to come over and talk to him?" Like, great. And he gives me a cigar, and I think it was probably a pretty intense cigar. It wasn't like the Coors Light of cigars. It was probably a little more. And I started smoking it with this other guy who I thought was a pretty cool guy. And halfway through, I just turned so green and was like, oh my gosh, this is really getting me. So I am a cigar lightweight, I realized, because I went home and had to lay down. And yeah, I'm a cigar lightweight, but I do like a cigar every once in a while. So.
Well, for those uninitiated to cigars, at least, I do know this much. You're not supposed to inhale the cigar smoke like you would a cigarette. You're supposed to just kind of suck on it, right? So yes. maybe there was a little too much, maybe a little too much inhaling of the smoke that happened there.
I don't know about that. So, well, anyway, our guests certainly know a lot about cigars. I'm excited to talk to them now. It almost feels like the government is being a helicopter parent. The type of parent that hovers over every little thing. The problem is they're hovering over adults. Take what's happening in Wisconsin, for example. Lawmakers passed a smoking ban, and on the surface, it sounds great for folks who prefer cleaner air. But here's where it gets tricky. That ban stopped any new cigar lounges from opening. The ones that were already open got to stay, but anyone wanting to start a new one, they were out of luck. That's not the free market deciding. That's the state creating a monopoly. One of the state's lawmakers, who personally dealt with secondhand smoke, said she was worried about the employees that work at cigar lounges. And look, caring about people, that's a good thing. But this is where the hovering comes in. If someone applies to work at a cigar lounge, they are aware of the environment, by definition. They're adults making an informed choice. Now, there's a bill that would change all this to allow new cigar lounges to open in Wisconsin. And today we're talking with two guests about what this bill does and why it matters and how the state can stop hovering. I want to welcome Ethan Sanchez, who is a Grassroots Engagement Director for Americans for Prosperity Wisconsin, and Jim Thompson, who's wanting to open a cigar lounge in Wisconsin. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome. Thank you.
David, thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for joining. I'm excited to talk about this topic. I've mentioned you guys. I'm a neighbor to the south. I'm your more socialist, less freedom-loving neighbor to the south. But anyway, so before we get to this bill, first let's talk about how you all got interested in cigars. You know, Jim, you mentioned you're a Marine veteran, and so when you were serving, how did cigars play a role?
And, good point. So it actually really came full circle when I was in Afghanistan back 2010, and they would have every Tuesday night. Rank really wasn't an issue. You could be sitting next to a general; it didn't matter. But it was a time of camaraderie in that environment where you were just able to sit down and have a good cigar and meet people and talk to people, and it really became a bonding thing. But a lot of business was done. A lot of strategies were created because I say, hey, I need this. And that guy from the UK would be like, well, I can provide a truck for that, and it really helped facilitate a lot of things. So that kind of just grew and grew and grew. And then we found a lot of times where, they'd call, hey, Gunny, go solve this problem. You get down there and, you bust out a cigar with somebody and you get to know somebody. It's not a 10-minute Zoom call. And that really kind of just pushed everything. And from that time on, I became a very avid smoker of cigars. I really enjoy them. And it kind of just pushed in every avenue of my life, realistically with business. We're in a bunch of clubs and it really has come that way. So that's how it kind of started.
One of the things that strikes me about cigars is like, if you're there to smoke a cigar because you enjoy it, the great byproduct of that is that if you're with other people, is that you're forced to talk to them and interact with them. And it's going to be for quite a while.
Right.
Because it takes a long time to smoke a cigar, and all you can do is just build a relationship with somebody else. It's kind of that bridge a little bit sometimes to get that relationship going.
Correct. And we're in a lot of cigar groups, but I've never met anybody that I dislike. I mean, honestly, I don't understand niche market. I get it, but you just have a common bond with somebody. You get to enjoy your time with them. You get to know them on a personal level. You find out whether you want to do business with them or you have like interests, talk to me about your family. And you're right. It's not a 10-minute coffee. It's an hour and a half. And that's what I really enjoy about that.
Nice. Hey, Ethan, what about you? How did you get interested in cigars?
Yeah, so I had my first cigar when I was in real estate. So I turned 21 when I was a realtor. This was like 3 years ago. And one of the realtor networking groups that I was a part of, they would meet for a cigar every now and again. I would do the networking over coffee and all of those things. I was never able to come to the cigar lounge because I wasn't of age yet. But I had my first cigar at one of those networking groups, and it's like an entirely different part of these guys that you're getting to know when you're having a cigar with them versus just having a coffee or a drink or something of the sort. So I fell in love with having cigars for the networking aspect. And then obviously I started to enjoy the trade of cigar crafting, cigar making, cigar smoking. And like Jim said, I mean, you have a coffee with somebody, you're going to get to know them for 10 minutes. You have a cigar, you got them there for an hour. So I really enjoy the networking and getting to know people at a deeper level. And that's why it's a passionate topic for me.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. I think it is. It's definitely a long form activity. It's not having a cigarette real fast or having a quick drink. It actually requires you to sit down and spend time with people. So Jim, you took a trip to South Carolina that really inspired you with regard to this, and helped stir your interest in starting a cigar lounge. Can you share that story with us?
Sure. So, it's kind of been up and coming. So when I was in the military, you would travel quite a bit. You're stationed numerous places. And when I got out of the military in 2012, I was down in South Carolina. That's where we were living. Down there, they had a lot of very nice higher end cigar lounges where you could come in. And what was nice about it is I could bring my wife, I could have a cigar. She could enjoy her wine. You could do whatever. And you didn't leave there reeking like smoke, like her hair doesn't smell like smoke. And then when you start talking to the owners and they talk about the actual business side of it, I was like, okay, let's look at this from a realistic standpoint. I've got 2 bachelors and a master's. So one of my last bachelor's was in business, and one of the projects was you had to create a business plan. So I had created a business plan anyway, for a cigar lounge and for every aspect of it. And that kind of pushed it. And then when we moved back to Wisconsin, the end of 17, and I, started partaking in the clubs here recently, within the last year, we took a serious look at what it would take to open a cigar lounge in Wisconsin. So we built every aspect of a business plan. The funding wasn't the issue. The staffing wasn't the issue. What impact it would have on the community, how many jobs it would produce. What's the average wage? What's the average revenue of a cigar lounge in my area? And I compared it to every other cigar lounge in the state of Wisconsin, every aspect of it. And I could do every part of it, except for when I went to actually go get one. They're like, yeah, you can't have that. I'm like, really? I can have the funding. I can have the business space. I can have the insurance. I can have every part of it, but I can't open one because your 2009 law says I can't. And that was very frustrating. I can open any other kind of business, but I can't open that. And it'd be different if it was a fly by night. I wrote it down on a napkin, but literally we analyzed every aspect and compared revenue, compared everything, retail sales, employment, every aspect of that. I could tell you exactly $16,500 goes back to the local community just in permits. I get it. The average lounge has 3 employees. You pay them this. Every part of that business plan done. I found private equity. I found every part of it, but I can't. So,
yeah. So, Ethan, why did you become interested in opening a lounge, and when did you find out that it was illegal in Wisconsin?
Yeah, so sort of the same story with Jim here. I mean, I was able to start networking over cigars with the real estate professionals I was with. I kind of fell in love with doing it. I began having all of my real estate consultations at the cigar lounge rather than a coffee shop or at the office. It became like a central piece of my personality, right? Because again, you have a coffee with somebody, you got them for 10 minutes. You have a cigar, you got them for an hour to an hour and a half. And I fell in love with this so much that I actually started having a serious conversation with a business partner. Sort of same situation as Jim, right? We had everything put together. We were ready to go. We had a building we were ready to put an offer on, architectural plans, the whole ideal. And then we get a response from our city, in the city that we were looking to put an offer on the building in, because this building was a city-owned property. And when we put in the proposal, they essentially ask, what would be your intentions with this building? I essentially dropped in the business plan. Usually when you, anyone who knows government, if you send an email to some sort of like government representative or any sort of agency, you're going to probably take a few days to a week to get a response back. I got a response back in 30 minutes. Hey, sorry, can't do it. Moving on.
Wow.
Well, that was the most efficiently the government's ever run. I wonder why. What was so apparent about this proposal that made you want to just deny it in 30 minutes? So I asked, and they said, you just can't open cigar lounges in Wisconsin. And I had no idea why. They kind of just dropped the information in an email. I looked into it. I found that this was an ongoing battle. And I said, this is insane. How many other people had put together all of the groundwork necessary, everything behind the scenes, to be able to find and to live through their version of the American dream, which would be a cigar lounge? For me, I mean, that's my retirement plan. We got to get this over the finish line so I can do it. So I can do it in Wisconsin. But that's the retirement plan. I do this as long as I can, and then we're going to get into a cigar lounge, and you'll find me there on my recliner, 9 to 5 every day. But how many other people wanted to pursue that dream, and they were told from an email in 30 minutes that they couldn't?
So there were already cigar lounges that were open when the restrictions were passed. Were there any new restrictions placed on those businesses? So when the public smoking ban was originally introduced, there was nothing that really in there towards cigar lounges until sort of like the 11th hour, which included them in the ban. So it's sort of like a last-ditch effort to just include all cigar lounges in the ban, to essentially terminate all of them. Over a few different
I believe it was a year and a half, maybe 2 years back and forth at the legislature. They were able to get a grandfather clause installed. And with that grandfather clause, it essentially said all lounges at current rate, how they were currently set up, they're allowed to stay in business, no one else. So what this essentially did is whatever regulation was in place back in 09 or 2010, that's exactly what the law looks like for those businesses today. We've grown in 15 years, 16 years, right? As a nation, when we talk about air cleanliness, when we talk about regulations and reforms, those businesses don't really have to keep up, right? So when we talk about air quality, like how some of the people who are opposing this bill discussed, and when we talk about some of the employees who would be working there and them taking in secondhand smoke, those establishments that were grandfathered in, they don't have to keep their air purification quality up to par at all because they were grandfathered in as is.
I imagine, and I'm kind of curious, Jim, because you mentioned that you could go to a cigar lounge with your wife and not come out reeking of smoke. I imagine there's been a lot of progress in air purification and how smoke's probably removed from any venue. Can you? I don't know much about that. Can you guys shed any light on that?
So we've got one of the more newer lounges, the one that was sort of brought forth before the ban. It's got sort of the best air quality because it was opened the most recent. I mean, we're talking 16 years ago, but it was still the most recent.
Mm-hmm.
You can immediately tell the difference going into a lounge there, how you come out smelling, what your sinuses are like. It's completely different. David, you were there. We went to All Staff in Orlando. When we were there, obviously I stopped at a cigar lounge in Orlando. The air purification, it's leaps and bounds better because they have to stay competitive because it's a free market there, right? If you've got a cigar lounge that opens and they invest heavily in their clean air, folks are going to want to go there because your clothes don't reek when you get out. You can go to a cigar lounge, have a quick smoke for 45 minutes or an hour, and then go back to work and not worry about, smelling your entire office up. The lounges here in Wisconsin, they don't have to do that. And it shows, I come home, my wife is like, go straight to the shower.
Yeah.
And if I can interject for a second, and you're absolutely right, because a lot of people, when they think of a cigar lounge, they're thinking of that dimly lit, you're like this, trying to see every. No, I mean, I've been to some Monte Cristo ones in Dallas. I've been all over the place. And you wouldn't even know they're smoking because the ventilation systems. And part of our business plan, we consulted with the top rated HVAC system people in my geographic location and said, all right, if we did this, what would it take? And they can tell you exactly, hey, you, based on your square footage, based on this, based on the amount of people, you'd be able to do that. So, we factored in that.
Hey, so Jim, I mean, you could potentially buy the business license of an existing cigar lounge, right? How much would that cost you, and is that worth the investment?
It's not worth the investment. So we looked at that route too after we were shut down on the first one. So because there's a limited number of lounges, we looked at one. The closest one to me in Wisconsin is a little north, about 45 minutes. So it's a standalone business. It is the business part itself, which is the lounge, then the humidor section, and a bar. It's $3 million. $3 million. That building itself is $189,000 because I'm licensed in real estate. So they want $3 million. So to buy, and you can't show that $3 million on the books. Whereas if Ethan and I were going to go buy an established business, you could show me the books. I could show that to the bank. I could show, P&L, and I could justify a loan for that.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't. So for $3 million, I get what? I get an existing building that I'm going to have to upgrade all of the ventilation and everything in it. No, it's not feasible.
You can't justify a $500,000 upcharge for the cost of acquiring a limited license.
Right. Well, yeah, at a minimum.
You can't do
at
that.
a minimum. Yeah, it's $3 million. Yeah. So no, it's not financially beneficial to do that.
Well, and you don't have a real market at all anymore, right? It's completely captive, controlled by the government.
The other problem is like where I'm located at in Kenosha. So if I want to go to a lounge, I either have to go 45 minutes south into Illinois and give my revenue there that has a higher tax per cigar, tobacco tax, and all my revenue goes to Illinois, or I have to go 45 minutes north to that lounge. There's nothing in my geographic location that would provide that.
Well, we welcome your tax revenue in Illinois, but probably wouldn't be put to good use. I'll tell you that much.
No, it's not.
Anyway, well, so speaking of government, actually, so Ethan, there's a bill that would try to address this, right? So what would that bill do, and what's the status of it?
So essentially, the bill, and it's SB 211, AB 211. Essentially, it would give the approval power to approve these new licenses back to local municipalities. As of right now, the municipality has no say in the matter. The statewide ban essentially says if someone comes to you proposing a cigar lounge, you have to say no. What it would do is essentially exempt tobacco bars from that public smoking ban. So essentially, it would strike out the word tobacco bar from that piece of legislation that banned it. There are a couple amendments that had to be introduced to it to get it through the finish line, one of which essentially requires giant plaques stating that this is a smoking establishment, must be 21 or older to enter, a new update on the required air purification quality, which obviously is a really, really good thing, and a couple other smaller things like having employees that would be working within the cigar lounge sign off on a acknowledgement of risk due to secondhand smoke exposure, things of the sort. So essentially what this does is it opens the market back up, breaks the monopoly, and also shores up some of the concerns that many people who are health conscious had when the reason why they opposed it. So I think across the finish line, this is an incredible piece of legislation, and we hope we get it done. Now, in terms of status, we got it through the Assembly, we got it through the Senate. As of, I believe, December 4th, it'll be sent to the governor's desk. So that's a pretty cool update.
Yeah,
Can I add
is.
some?
Yeah, go for it, Jim.
Okay, so and I love how it leaves the local decision making to the individual municipalities. So if I was able to go to my local municipality with my business plan and I present it to the city council or whatever governing body, and I said, here's my proposal, this is how many jobs, this is where the money goes back to the city, they can turn around and say, okay, hey, great idea, Jim, we love this, but if you could keep your location here downtown so we get foot traffic, or it enhances the downtown experience with the other restaurants or whatnot, if you could keep it to this type of structure or this type of signage, I'm okay 100% with that. We want to work with the local municipality to make this work because we want to give that. I'm not sending my money out of state somewhere. That all goes back into the community with community events. I mean, we see it all the time. You've got, charity events. We've got all these other things that we would do. So that allows open communication with the local municipality to say, how could we best serve you if we put this establishment in place? It's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all where they've just got to accept whatever we want. So I really like that part.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like having the we basically said we think local government particularly, can make some decisions about businesses and other entities that are located in their towns and their city limits, and and because we vote for them and elect them and hopefully have a say in that activity. So I think what's closest to the people is probably the best organization or the best government entity to regulate it.
Yes, sir.
So Jim, if this passed. So if it goes to the governor on December 4th and say he signed it, how quickly do you plan to open a cigar lounge?
As quickly as I possibly can. I'm not kidding when I say it is an absolute dream to be able to have an upscale lounge in my community. I am 100% serious. So we have every aspect in place. The hardest part right now would be if it passes, I would have to communicate with the local government to say, where would you like in finding that real estate in that area? And then if that works, they're okay with that and they're okay with everything else, I mean, we could be up and running quickly. And that would be wonderful. That would be absolutely wonderful. This isn't a 5-year plan. This is a right now plan. And there's only one thing holding us back. So,
Yeah, so government gets out of the way. You're ready to start generating revenue and creating jobs and tax revenue.
I already told my boss, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, but if I can open a cigar lounge, we're going.
Well, we'll have to maybe we'll have to take American Potential on the road and go 45 minutes north to go on location.
You could come to the ribbon cutting.
Oh, that'd be awesome. How fun. That's great. Well, guys, I appreciate you kind of sharing with us the fight that you're in the midst of. There's, what's funny is like, I know you guys interact with people all the time who have no interest or knowledge of government politics. They kind of think it's a business they're not really that interested in. But I bet you there's a ton of them who love to go smoke cigars and would love to have a venue. And it's like, should I be interested in what's going on in the state, or what should I be interested in, what's going on legislatively or at my local government level? And, unfortunately for us, government affects all our lives in so many different ways. And this is just another great example where, hopefully we can make kind of the voice of average people, just folks who want to smoke a cigar and enjoy that camaraderie, make that heard, kind of restore some sanity maybe to the legislation. So thanks for your efforts. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for you guys. Thank you, Ethan. We appreciate all the support and backing, and we look forward to a bright future.
Thanks, David. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, hey, folks, if you like this episode and would like to stay connected with the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, as well as following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend freedom and liberty. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.